Isn't it strange how the universe works? You wake up thinking it's just another day, going through the motions, weighed down by doubts, mistakes, and the noise of life. And then quietly, without fanfare, without announcement, something shifts. The weight lifts slightly. The timing aligns. The moments fall into place. You feel it in subtle ways, the ease of a conversation, the way things just work out, the small coincidences that make you pause. Today, something within the world leans toward you, as if unseen forces are smiling, approving, acknowledging that your efforts, your struggles, your persistence have not gone unnoticed, and that for once the chaos bends gently in your favor. Alignment with unseen forces isn't something that announces itself loudly. It doesn't arrive with fireworks, alerts, or clear instruction. It slips in quietly, reshaping circumstances in ways you might not immediately notice, nudging events into order, adjusting timing, and subtly influencing outcomes. Most people walk through life assuming that everything is random, that cause and effect are linear, and that effort is always the deciding factor. That's the illusion. There is a rhythm beneath the surface, a hidden orchestration, a set of forces moving in directions you can't always perceive. You feel it first in small, almost imperceptible ways. A door opens when you didn't expect it. A conversation flows effortlessly. Timing, which usually feels chaotic, suddenly seems precise. These are the signals of alignment, the whispers of forces that operate beyond your comprehension, yet shape the very trajectory of your day, your opportunities, your decisions. You convince yourself that it's luck, coincidence, chance. That's what makes it so effective. You don't notice the pattern at first because your mind is trained to search for cause in the obvious, to seek clarity, and to discount subtlety. But these unseen forces operate in the quiet, in the gaps between action and expectation, in the invisible threads that connect people, ideas, and moments. You may have experienced days where nothing seems to go right, where obstacles pile up, where timing feels cruel and unyielding. Those days are the counterpoint to alignment. They sharpen your perception by contrast. And when alignment arrives, you notice it not as a sudden epiphany, but as a sense of flow, a feeling that circumstances are easier, that resistance is lower, that paths are unexpectedly clear. You begin to recognize patterns that previously would have gone unnoticed, repeated coincidence, moments that feel too precise to be random, interactions that arrive with perfect timing. You try to explain them logically, to rationalize them, but explanation often fails. Alignment is not about logic. It's about resonance, about forces converging, about the quiet orchestration of elements that you can sense, even if you cannot name. You feel it in the chest, in your awareness, in the subtle energy that shifts when everything falls into place. It's both exhilarating and unsettling because it reminds you that control is limited, that timing is not entirely yours, and that forces beyond your perception are guiding outcomes in ways you cannot dictate. You begin to pay attention. Small details that once seemed insignificant now carry weight. A call, a message, a coincidence that repeats, a thought that returns. Unbidden, all are part of a web you are only just beginning to see. Ignoring these signs is tempting because acknowledging them requires humility, awareness, and presence. It requires letting go of the belief that everything is random or under your command. Alignment is subtle. It tests your perception, your attention, your willingness to notice when events are nudging you forward, when opportunities are presented, when pathways are cleared that were previously blocked. You feel an internal tension between disbelief and awareness, between skepticism and recognition. That tension is exactly what alignment seeks. It demands that you participate consciously, that you act with attention, that you respond rather than ignore. The more you notice, the more apparent it becomes. The small coincidences, the effortless timing, the ease with which certain things happen, they are not accidents. They are the manifestations of unseen forces that favor alignment, that respond to persistence, awareness, and presence. You may attempt to rationalize, to insist that it's luck, that it's timing, that it's circumstance, but the pattern persists. It nudges, it whispers, it demands recognition. And in that recognition, the effect grows. You realize that life is not entirely chaotic, that beneath the apparent randomness, there is a current of alignment, subtle, invisible, patient, and persistent. It shifts opportunities, moments, connections, and outcomes in ways that favor those who are awake enough to notice. You begin to move differently, to act with attention, to recognize the moments when small adjustments, small choices, and small acknowledgments create resonance with the unseen currents that guide events. Alignment is not about forcing results, controlling circumstances, or predicting outcomes. It is about awareness, attentiveness, and participation. It asks you to observe, to notice, to respond, to recognize the quiet favor that exists when you are in tune with the flow of forces beyond the obvious, the seen, the tangible, and to allow that recognition to guide your choices, your attention, and your sincere cognition of effort and persistence isn't always loud. It doesn't arrive with applause, certificates, or obvious validation. Sometimes it slips in quietly, unnoticed at first, showing up in subtle shifts, unexpected opportunities, or small moments that feel lighter than usual. You spend your days working, pushing, trying, often convinced that the world is indifferent, that effort is meaningless, that persistence only leads to exhaustion. That's the trick. It's not meaningless. Every choice, every attempt, every step, however small, accumulates. You may not see the impact immediately, but unseen forces, timing, circumstances, and the ripple effect of your persistence are aligning to acknowledge what you've invested. It begins in ways that feel ordinary, almost mundane. A conversation flows easier than before. A problem resolves unexpectedly. A door opens when you thought it was closed. These are the signs that your effort hasn't gone unnoticed, that the persistence you've maintained has created a quiet momentum that the universe or the pattern of life is responding to. You try to rationalize them, dismiss them as luck, coincidence, or timing, but deep down, you feel a subtle acknowledgement, a sense that your struggles, your patience, your dedication are registering in ways that are invisible yet powerful. Recognition doesn't always arrive in the form of reward sometimes. It arrives as alignment, as ease, as timing bending in your favor. You begin to notice patterns you may have overlooked before, repeated coincidences, unexpected assistance, opportunities emerging in ways that seem orchestrated yet are impossible to trace to a single source. You question whether it's real, whether it's deserved, whether you're imagining it. That doubt is natural, a part of human perception that insists on humility, that forces you to consider whether you've earned it, or whether it's simply a trick of circumstance. Persistence has its own logic, one that operates beyond doubt, beyond immediate recognition, beyond conventional validation. Each step you've taken, each struggle you've endured, each moment you've chosen to continue despite fatigue or discouragement has created a resonance that manifests subtly, quietly, patiently. You notice it in feelings of ease that weren't there before, in outcomes that surprise you, in doors opening that previously seemed closed. Your awareness sharpens. Small gestures, small opportunities, small alignments once invisible become clear. Recognition grows not as a loud event, but as a pattern that demands observation, attention, and response. You realize that the effort you've put forth has been like planting seeds in soil you couldn't see, in seasons you couldn't anticipate. The growth was happening quietly, beneath the surface, accumulating, gaining strength, prepared to manifest when the conditions aligned, when timing was ready, when you were present to notice. That realization is disorienting because it contradicts the notion that effort is immediately rewarded, that persistence must be obvious to be meaningful, that struggle without applause is wasted. You feel subtle tension, the urge to act differently, to anticipate, to force outcomes, to question whether you are ready to receive the acknowledgement that has been building invisibly. But recognition does not respond to impatience. It responds to alignment, attention, and awareness. You begin to see the threads connecting your persistence to the opportunity and moments that now appear in your path, the signs that your effort is being mirrored in the world, the subtle adjustment that life makes to reward acknowledge, or reflect your dedication. You may have doubted yourself, questioned your worth, felt overlooked or ignored. Yet here it is, the quiet, undeniable acknowledgement that comes not from others, but from the fabric of life itself, from the rhythm of timing, from the alignment of effort with persistence, from the invisible currents that favor those who refuse to quit, who continue, who persevere in the face of uncertainty, exhaustion, or indifference. Recognition grows as you pay attention to the small details, the doors that open slightly wider, the ease in interactions, the flow of events that once seemed resistant. You realize that effort was never wasted, persistence was never meaningless, and that acknowledgement doesn't always arrive in noise, applause, or obvious reward. Sometimes it arrives as subtle alignment, as energy that shifts to favor your path, as unseen currents that bend in response to the dedication you've maintained. And in that quiet acknowledgement, you sense the validation you've sought not from the world, not from others, but from the unseen forces that trek effort, honor persistence, and respond when the time, the awareness, and the alignment converge to reflect what you have earned through unwavering action. Subtle signs of approval are rarely obvious. They don't arrive in grand declarations, loud affirmations, or dramatic gestures. They slip in quietly, almost imperceptibly, shaping moments, altering circumstances, and signaling acknowledgement in ways that are easy to dismiss if you're not paying attention. Most people expect recognition to be immediate, visible, undeniable. They wait for applause, for congratulations, for validation that can be measured or recorded. That's the trap. True acknowledgement, approval from forces beyond your control, operates differently. It moves in whispers, in timing, in alignment that bends events slightly in your favor. You feel it first in small ways, a conversation that flows effortlessly, a door that opens unexpectedly, circumstances aligning where they previously resisted. You might convince yourself it's coincidence, luck, or randomness, but deep down, you notice the subtle favor. That recognition is quiet because it tests whether you are aware enough to notice it, attentive enough to respond, sensitive enough to interpret it correctly. You've been trained to focus on the obvious, to reward only what can be measured, to dismiss what cannot be seen. But subtle approval doesn't conform to those rules. It reveals itself through patterns, repeated coincidences, timing that seems almost too precise to be accidental. Moments when events unfold in ways that feel orchestrated beyond your intention. At first, you may ignore these signs, dismissing them as imagination or exaggeration, because acknowledgement that cannot be measured is difficult to trust, yet the pattern persists. The universe, life, the unseen forces, whatever you call it, continue nudging, aligning, bending events ever so slightly in response to your presence, your choices, your persistence. You begin to notice that the ease in certain situations is not random, that small favors occur without explanation, that timing suddenly bends toward you. Recognition manifests not as reward, but as alignment, circumstance flowing, resistance lessening, energy shifting in subtle ways. It's disorienting because it contradicts the notion that acknowledgement must be loud to be meaningful. The small shifts demand awareness, presence, and attention. You replay moments, interactions, and coincidences, searching for patterns, seeking meaning, questioning whether it's real or imagined. That questioning is part of the process. Approval tests perception. It requires that you notice without forcing understanding, that you respond without demanding clarity, that you feel without rationalizing. The subtlety is the point. You cannot force it, manipulate it, or command it. You can only observe, recognize, and align with it. It appears in the smallest of gestures, a word that resonates, a glance that lingers, an opportunity that emerges unbidden. Each repetition reinforces the pattern. Each coincidence strengthens the signal. Each small favor becomes a quiet message that your efforts, your presence, and your alignment have not gone unnoticed. The challenge is that subtle approval often arrives amidst noise. Life is full of distractions, routines, and obligations that make it easy to miss these gentle signals. You may be focused on the obvious problems, the apparent failures, the things that demand immediate attention. while the quiet currents of acknowledgement slip past unnoticed. Awareness requires slowing down, observing, and listening, even when it feels inconvenient, uncomfortable, or unnecessary. You start noticing the alignment between effort and outcome, the way obstacles resolve more easily than before, the way timing seems to favor your actions without reason. It's not magic. It's subtle, it's unseen, it's deliberate. Approval grows as you pay attention, as you recognize patterns, as you respond consciously to the opportunities, coincidences, and alignments presented. It's cumulative, building quietly until the weight of acknowledgement becomes undeniable, not because it is loud, but because it has been persistent, precise, and patient. You begin to understand that recognition doesn't always come from others, that validation doesn't always require applause, that approval doesn't need a stage. Sometimes the forces that matter, the unseen forces, the currents of alignment, the quiet favor of timing communicate through subtle signs, testing whether you are present enough, attentive enough, aware enough to notice and respond. And in noticing, you participate, engage, and align with those forces, amplifying the acknowledgement, reinforcing the pattern, and stepping into the quiet power of approval that has been shaping your path without fanfare, without announcement, without requirement for permission, demanding only that you observe, recognize, and act in harmony with the subtle current that bend life in your favor. Moments falling into place are rarely obvious until you step back and notice the patterns. You move through life thinking that everything is chaotic, that timing is cruel, that the universe is indifferent. And yet, every so often, the pieces start aligning, almost imperceptibly, guiding events, interactions, and opportunities in ways that feel effortless, almost designed. At first, it feels like coincidence, random chance, or luck. You shrug, smile, and move on, unwilling to admit that something larger might be at work, that subtle forces might be orchestrating circumstances in ways that favor you. Even when you don't notice, these moments appear in tiny ways, a conversation that flows without friction, a problem resolving more easily than expected, an encounter that seems perfectly timed. They are quiet, delicate, and often fleeting, which is why so many people fail to recognize them. Life has a way of testing attention, patience, and awareness. You may have gone through days where nothing seemed to align, where obstacles piled up, where timing was cruel. Those experiences sharpen perception. They prepare you to notice when alignment begins, when chaos softens, when moments start falling into place. It doesn't arrive with a fanfare. It doesn't knock or announce itself. Instead, it manifests subtly, shifting patterns, nudging circumstances, arranging events in ways that seem almost improbable. You convince yourself that it's luck, that it's coincidence, that it's nothing more than chance. But chance rarely feels deliberate, persistent, and precise. You start seeing patterns, interactions that repeat with slight differences, opportunities that appear just at the right moment, coincidences that feel pointed rather than random. You question your perception. Are you imagining it? Are you attributing significance where there is none? That skepticism is normal. The mind resists acknowledging alignment because acknowledgement demands presence, awareness, and action. It forces you to admit that timing, forces, or circumstances beyond your control have influenced events in your favor. That realization is both exhilarating and unsettling because it contradicts the illusion of control you've built around your life. You begin to notice the subtle adjustments in your environment, a door opening just a little wider, a conversation taking an unexpected turn, a path clearing where you thought obstacles were insurmountable. Each moment seems small on its own, but together they form a pattern that cannot be ignored. Awareness of these moments requires attentiveness. Most people overlook them because they are focused on what is immediate, obvious, or urgent, dismissing subtle alignment as unimportant or imaginary. Yet these small signals are the markers of momentum, indicators that timing, effort, and circumstance are converging to produce results that feel almost effortless. You begin to feel tension between disbelief and recognition. It's uncomfortable because it challenges the belief that you control everything, that timing is always predictable, that effort alone determines outcome. Yet here it is, a quiet, undeniable favor, shaping circumstances, nudging life into alignment, and creating pathways that previously seemed impossible. You replay past experiences in your mind, noticing how small, overlooked moments now appear significant in retrospect, revealing a pattern you failed to see until alignment was undeniable. The feeling grows stronger as awareness sharpens, a heightened sensitivity to timing, interactions, and opportunities, understanding that some forces move independently, and that recognizing them requires observation, humility, and presence. You notice repeated coincidences, subtle signs, persistent feelings, and interactions that align with your intentions, even when you cannot see the mechanism behind them. These are the indicators that moments are falling into place, that the universe, or whatever forces are shaping events responds to awareness, effort, and attentiveness. Recognition does not arrive as proof, but as resonance, a sense of ease, clarity, and flow that was missing before, a realization that events are orchestrating themselves around you in subtle ways, and that timing and opportunity bend quietly toward those who notice. You begin to move differently, choosing actions with awareness, responding to alignment, recognizing patterns that were invisible before, and engaging with circumstances in a way that amplifies the subtle favor surrounding you. Moments that once seemed chaotic now reveal themselves as orchestrated, flowing together in a pattern that is deliberate, persistent, and quietly transformative, demanding observation, presence, and acknowledgement, shaping outcomes, guiding decisions, and opening paths that you may have once believed were inaccessible, unnoticed, or impossible, simply because you were too distracted, too impatient, or too unobservant to see the quiet forces at work, bending, timing, nudging alignment, and orchestrating the subtle, relentless favor that allows life's pieces to fall into place in ways that are unseen, unannounced, and profoundly influential on the trajectory of your path. Feeling of ease and flow is deceptive because it appears suddenly, like it has always been there, but in reality, it is the culmination of subtle shifts, unseen alignments, and quiet forces converging in ways you rarely notice. Most people move through life in tension, expecting resistance, preparing for obstacles, convinced that struggle defines existence. And yet, every so often, a day arrives where everything seems lighter, smoother, more effortless, as if the currents of life themselves have chosen to favor you. At first, it feels like luck, coincidence, or randomness. You may question whether it's real, whether it's temporary, whether you are imagining the alignment that seems to make every interaction, decision, and outcome easier. But that ease is real, and it carries significance far beyond the superficial comfort it provides. You notice it in small moments, the way conversations flow naturally, the way timing seems precise without your intervention, the way problems resolve with minimal effort, the way opportunities present themselves in ways that feel orchestrated rather than random. The flow tests your awareness. Most people dismiss these signals, attributing them to luck or imagination, failing to see that what they feel is ease is actually alignment, a subtle favor from forces beyond perception that respond to persistence, attention, and presence. You begin to notice patterns that you previously ignored, repeated coincidences, timing that seems deliberate, interactions that feel connected in ways too precise to be accidental. That recognition is uncomfortable because it contradicts the illusion of control you've built around your life. The idea that effort alone dictates outcomes, that struggle must be constant, that tension is inevitable. Yet here it is, flow, a quiet, undeniable force guiding events, shaping circumstances, and creating alignment with your intentions even when you cannot see the mechanism behind it. You begin to understand that ease does not appear for those who are distracted, impatient, or inattentive. It rewards observation, awareness, and engagement. It emerges in moments where presence is cultivated, where attention is maintained, and where effort has been persistent. Even when results seemed invisible, you notice subtle cues, a name that resurfaces, a coincidence that repeats, a thought that insists on returning, a conversation that resolves effortlessly. These are not random. They are markers of flow, signals that alignment has occurred, and that forces beyond your perception are bending circumstances in your favor. The more you acknowledge these patterns, the stronger the sense of ease becomes. It is not a magical event. It is a consequence of attention, alignment, and timing. You realize that the moments of struggle, tension, and chaos were not meaningless. They were preparatory, necessary for recognition of flow, for understanding its presence, for appreciating the subtle orchestration that allows life to move without friction when you are awake enough to notice. Ease and flow demand attentiveness because they are fleeting. They do not announce themselves loudly, and they rarely persist when ignored. Most people miss them entirely because they are too busy measuring effort, anticipating resistance, or validating struggle as the primary marker of progress. But the ones who notice, who pay attention, who act in harmony with the currents of life, experience not only comfort, but opportunity, clarity, and a momentum. You feel it in your body, in your awareness, in the quiet sense that timing is aligned, obstacles are diminished, and decisions become clearer without exertion. The flow is persistent yet subtle, building quietly over time, amplified by recognition, attention, and engagement. It is not passive. You must move with it, notice it, respond to it, and act within it. Each small action, each interaction, each moment of awareness reinforces the alignment, strengthens the currents, and amplifies the sense of ease that pervades your experience. You notice that the flow is cumulative. The longer you recognize it, the more it builds, the more effortlessly life seems to respond, the more precise the timing, the more natural the outcomes. Ease is not granted for convenience or desire. It is earned through attention, presence, and alignment with forces beyond control. And once you notice it, you begin to anticipate subtle patterns, respond to cues, and move in harmony with currents that previously went unseen, amplifying the effect, and discovering that what you once considered luck, coincidence, or chance is actually the quiet, deliberate favor of alignment, manifesting in the form of a feeling, an awareness, a rhythm, and a flow that shapes your life, decisions, and path in ways you could never have engineered, yet are undeniably real, persistent, and transformative. Small coincidences as messages are the subtle language of life, whispering truths in ways that are easy to overlook if you're not paying attention. They don't arrive with neon signs, explanations, or guarantees. They arrive quietly, repeatedly, and persistently, appearing in ways that feel trivial until you notice the pattern, until you see the invisible threads connecting moments, people, and circumstances. At first, you may dismiss them as randomness, as accident, as the product of your imagination. You may tell yourself that noticing them is reading too much into nothing, that it's just a trick of perception, or that life is always chaotic and unpredictable. That's exactly what makes them effective. They test attention, presence, and awareness. They appear in mundane ways, a name that keeps surfacing, a thought that recurs unbidden, a conversation that veers unexpectedly but meaningfully, a timing that seems too precise to be coincidence. You question whether it is real. Is this a message, or am I imagining significance where there is none? That doubt is natural. It is part of the filter that life uses to see who notices and who ignores. Those who dismiss the signals are often the ones who miss the lesson they carry, the insights they offer, the opportunities they herald. Each small coincidence carries a resonance, an alignment with forces beyond perception, a subtle signal that you are on a path, that your attention matters, that your presence is being tested and guided. You may feel it in the chest, in the mind, in the faint tension that says, notice this, don't ignore it, pay attention. Ignoring these coincidences doesn't stop them from occurring, it simply delays recognition, and delay often diminishes opportunity, insight, and alignment. You begin to notice that these coincidences are not random, they follow patterns. Repetition is the key. A single instance may feel like chance, but repeated appearances of the same name, the same symbol, the same circumstance cannot be coincidental. They persist until you acknowledge them, until you recognize that they carry message. You were too distracted, too impatient, or too unobservant to notice before. These messages are rarely explicit. They do not spell out their meaning in plain language. They require interpretation, reflection, and intuition. They force you to examine the intersection of timing, effort, and attention, to see how moments that appear unrelated are in fact connected, signaling alignment, guidance, or encouragement. You replay your days, interactions, and thoughts, noticing the threads that were previously invisible. A casual conversation, a fleeting glance, a recurring thought, all of these begin to coalesce into a pattern that you can no longer ignore. You realize that life communicates in subtle, persistent ways, testing whether you are awake enough to see, attentive enough to notice, and courageous enough to respond. Each small coincidence is an invitation, a nudge, a message that asks for acknowledgement, engagement, and action. You may feel frustration because the messages are cryptic, ambiguous, and inconvenient, because they require attention in a world that constantly distracts, and because their meaning cannot be forced or predicted. That discomfort is essential. It sharpens perception, focuses awareness, and compels action. You begin to understand that the coincidences that persist are not random. They are deliberate, part of a subtle orchestration that rewards those who notice, who respond, who align themselves with the currents of timing, opportunity, and connection. The challenge is to remain attentive without obsession, to interpret without rationalizing away, to act without fear or hesitation. The coincidences themselves do not do the work, they demand that you do. Recognition requires engagement. Awareness demands presence. Action depends on courage. And once you notice, once you engage, once you act, the pattern grows stronger. Subsequent coincidences reinforce the message, amplify the alignment, and guide decision, timing, and perception in ways that feel natural, effortless, and inevitable. You begin to see the architecture behind life's apparent randomness. Each repeated occurrence is a signpost, a marker, a breadcrumb left to guide awareness, to test perception, to reward attention. Ignoring them trains inattention, misses opportunity, and delays growth. Observing them cultivates awareness, strengthens intuition, and deepens alignment with forces beyond your immediate perception. The small coincidences are never trivial. They are messages, subtle, deliberate, persistent, waiting for recognition, testing your attention, shaping your path, nudging awareness, and guiding action in ways that, once noticed, change everything about how you perceive timing, alignment, presence, and the quiet, relentless intelligence behind the unfolding of your life. Inner awareness of support is a strange sensation because it rarely arrives with clarity. You don't always feel it as a comforting hand, a voice, or a clear presence. Most of the time, it manifests in subtle, quiet ways, moments that seem ordinary, until you pause long enough to notice that there's a force, a rhythm, an alignment that is carrying you, guiding you, favoring you in ways you cannot fully explain. You go through life thinking that the struggle is solitary, that your efforts are unnoticed, that support is scarce or absent, and yet, at unexpected moments, you feel a gentle nudge, a subtle reassurance, a shift that reminds you that you are not entirely alone. That forces beyond comprehension are attuned to your persistence, presence, and attention. You feel it first in the ease of movement, in timing that bends in your favor, in doors opening that you never anticipated. At first, you might dismiss it as coincidence, luck, or random chance, because acknowledging unseen support requires humility, awareness, and the courage to admit that not everything depends solely on your control. That hesitation is normal, and it is part of the pattern itself, testing whether you are awake enough to notice, attentive enough to perceive, and aware enough to respond. Inner awareness does not rely on fanfare, proof, or explanation. It is subtle, operating in small, precise ways. A conversation that unfolds without conflict, a problem resolving when you least expect it. A moment when timing seems almost too perfect to be accidental. You question whether it is real, whether it is deserved, whether your perception is accurate. That doubt is intentional, a part of the test, a filter to separate those who notice from those who dismiss. Each small alignment, each subtle shift, Each recurring pattern reinforces the presence of support that exists quietly, persistently, beyond your immediate awareness. You notice patterns repeating, thoughts that return, coincidences that recur, interactions that seem orchestrated beyond your influence. They are messages, reminders, signals that the forces at work are not indifferent, that they respond to attention, persistence, and alignment with the flow of life. You begin to realize that support does not always manifest as direct intervention. It manifests in alignment, obstacles easing when timing shifts, connections appearing when least expected, energy flowing with less resistance, decisions becoming clearer without extra effort. Recognition requires presence, attentiveness, and subtle observation. Most people fail to notice because they are distracted by noise, obsessed with control, or focused on immediate struggles, ignoring the quiet currents that carry them, influence outcomes, and shapes. You ever notice how people beg for change, but the second it starts happening, they panic? They pray for a way out, a new beginning, a miracle. Well, they love that word, don't they? A miracle. But when the doors start opening, when the signs start showing up, they hesitate, they doubt, because deep down, they don't really want change. No, they want comfort. People love to believe in luck, don't they? They sit around waiting, hoping, wishing for something, anything to change. If only I had a chance, they say. If only life gave me an opportunity. But here's the joke. Opportunities are always appearing. They just don't look the way people expect. See, most people have this little picture in their heads of what an open door should look like. It should be big, obvious, flashing lights, a perfect little invitation to a better life. But that's not how it works. No. Opportunities? Oh, they like to play tricks. They show up disguised as problems, as risks, as uncomfortable little nudges that make you second guess everything. And most people, they ignore them. They walk right past their blessing because it didn't look safe enough. Oh, but that's the thing about doors opening. They never come with a warning label. One day you're just living your life, going through the motions, and then, boom, something shifts. A random phone call, a chance meeting, a job offer you weren't even looking for. And in that moment, you have a choice. Do you step through? Do you take the risk? Or do you stay where it's comfortable, where it's predictable, where you think you're in control? And that's where most people fail. They think they want opportunity, but the second it appears, they get scared. They freeze. They start coming up with excuses. It's not the right time. What if it doesn't work out? Maybe I should wait for something better. And just like that, the door starts to close. But you know the real kicker? People don't even realize when they've missed their shot. They don't hear the door creak shut. They just keep going, waiting for another perfect moment, not knowing they already let it slip away. Because opportunities don't beg. They don't stand there knocking forever. You either see them or you don't. You either act or you hesitate. And if you hesitate too long, well, let's just say, life has a way of giving your chance to somebody else. Somebody who will take it. And then, then comes the regret, the late night thoughts, the what ifs, the maybe I should have. It eats at people, makes them bitter, makes them jealous of the ones who did take the leap. They start calling it luck, as if that makes it easier to swallow. But deep down they know. They know they had the same shot, the same moment, the same door standing right in front of them. They just didn't walk through it. And nothing haunts a person more than the chances they didn't take. But the funniest part? People love to blame everything but themselves. It wasn't meant to be. Maybe it was a sign that I shouldn't have done it. No. That's just fear in disguise. That's just a lie they tell themselves so they don't have to face the truth. The truth that maybe, just maybe, the door was open, but they were too afraid to step through. Because the real problem? It's not that opportunities don't appear. It's that most people don't trust themselves enough to take them. They want a guarantee. They want to know it'll work before they even try. But life doesn't come with guarantees. It never has. It never will. So, here's the real question. What do you do when the door opens? Do you step through even if it's scary, even if it doesn't look like what you expected? Or do you wait? Wait for a better time, a better opportunity, a moment that feels safer? Because the thing about open doors, they don't stay open forever. And once they close, well, let's just say not everyone gets a second chance. Funny thing about instincts, people love to ignore them. They sit there feeling something deep in their gut, something telling them to move, to change, to go. And what do? Oh, they drown it out. They distract themselves. They bury it under excuses, under fear, under the illusion of certainty. Because that little voice inside, that pull toward something different, it's terrifying. It means stepping into the unknown. And most people, they'd rather stay miserable than take a risk. See, people act like they don't know what to do, like they're lost, like they're waiting for some big sign to fall from the sky. But the truth is they already know. They've always known. They feel it. That itch, that uneasiness, that restlessness that won't let them get comfortable. It keeps them up at night, makes them zone out in the middle of conversations, makes everything they used to enjoy feel empty. And yet, they ignore it. They tell themselves they're just being paranoid, just overthinking, just imagining things. But that feeling, that urge, that's not random. That's not an accident. That's the push. That's the whisper before the storm. Oh, but people don't like whispers. They want to shout. They want certainty. They want a sign so obvious it slaps them across the face. They say things like, if it's meant to be, it'll be clear. But the joke, the real joke, it is clear. They just don't want to see it. Because seeing it means acting on it. Seeing it means leaving behind what's familiar. Seeing it means admitting that everything they've been holding on to, the job, the relationship, the life they built, might not be right for them anymore. And that's the scariest thought of all. So they stay. They stay in places they've outgrown. They stay in cycles that are slowly draining them. They stay in lives that feel too small, too suffocating, too wrong. And the longer they stay, the more they convince themselves they have to. That it's too late to change. That they've already invested too much. That walking away would be stupid. And that's how they trap themselves. That's how they end up stuck, watching their own life slip through their fingers like sand, knowing deep down they should have left a long time ago. But the body, the mind, the soul, they don't lie. They start screaming when you won't listen. That anxiety that won't go away, that exhaustion that sleep can't fix, that constant feeling like something's missing, that's the alarm bell. That's the warning sign flashing in big bright letters. That's the proof that staying where you are is no longer an option. But even then, most people hesitate because stepping into something new, that's uncomfortable. That's unpredictable. That's dangerous. But the real danger, the real risk, it's ignoring that pull. It's pretending you don't feel it. It's waiting so long that you don't want to change anymore, that you become numb, that you settle. Because that's how dreams die. Not with some big dramatic ending. No, they die in silence. They die in little compromises, in little moments of hesitation, in all the times you told yourself, not yet. And before you know it, that fire inside, it's gone. And the irony, the thing that makes it all so hilarious, the people who ignored the call, who stayed put when they should have left, they'll spend the rest of their lives telling others to go for it, to chase their dreams, to listen to their gut, because they know. They know what it feels like to ignore the signs. They know what it's like to stay in a place that's killing them. And they know, better than anyone, that when the urge to move forward comes, you listen. Because if you don't, well, let's just say, not everyone gets another push. People walk around acting like they don't know what's happening. Like they don't see the shift. Like they don't notice how the things that used to come easy suddenly feel like a fight. They say things like, I don't know why this is happening. I don't understand why everything feels so hard all of a sudden. But deep down, oh, deep down, they know. They feel it. They just don't want to admit it. Because admitting it means they'd have to do something about it. See, when doors start closing, when things stop working, when no matter how much you try, you keep hitting wall after wall after wall, that's not bad luck. That's not the universe punishing you. That's a message, a loud one, a clear one. It's saying, you don't belong here anymore. It's saying, this chapter is done. But people? Oh, people are stubborn. They want to stay. They want to force it. They think, if I just try harder, if I just hold on a little longer, if I just suffer through this, maybe things will go back to the way they work. That's not how it works. Because when a door is meant to close, it will close. No amount of begging, no amount of effort, no amount of pretending will change that. And yet, people will sit there, banging on it, trying to pry it open, trying to hold on to something that's already gone. And the longer they hold on, the worse it gets. The job that once made them feel alive now drains them. The relationship that once made them happy now suffocates them. The place they once loved now feels like a cage. But still, they stay. Because leaving, walking away, that's terrifying. That means stepping into something unknown. That means giving up the illusion of control. So life does what it has to do. It makes staying unbearable. It takes away the comfort. It makes sure that every time you try to go back, it feels wrong. Every time you try to force what's no longer meant for you, it gets harder. But people, oh, they don't like that. They start complaining. Why is this happening to me? Why does nothing feel right anymore? But the real question, why are you still here? Why are you fighting for something that clearly isn't fighting for you? But that's the thing. People hate letting go. They hate walking away, even when the signs are clear, even when the universe is shoving them towards something else. They hesitate because they don't trust the process. They don't believe that walking away will lead them to something better. No, they think leaving means losing. They think it means failure. But the real failure, the real mistake, is ignoring the signs. It's staying in a place you've already outgrown. It's choosing comfort over growth, choosing fear over faith. And then when it's too late, when the door has locked behind them, when they've spent years trying to revive something that was already dead, that's when they finally realize. That's when it hits them. They should have let go when life first told them to. They should have walked away when things first stopped making sense, because now they've wasted time. Now they've exhausted themselves. Now they have to start over when they could have been ahead if they had just listened. But the funny part, life always gives warnings. It always gives chances. It whispers first, a little discomfort here, a little shift there. And when you ignore it, it gets louder. The tension builds, the pressure rises, the suffering increases, until finally, snap, everything collapses. And by then, you don't have a choice anymore. You have to leave. But instead of walking out with power, instead of leaving on your own terms, you're forced out, kicked out. And that's what people call a wake-up call. But it was never a surprise. It was always coming. They just didn't want to see it. Because the truth is, life doesn't take things away to hurt you. It doesn't close doors to punish you. It does it because you deserve better, because you were meant for more, because where you're going, what's waiting for you is so much bigger than what you're holding on to. But you'll never see it if you keep clinging to what's already gone. And once that door shuts for good, well, let's just say, not everyone gets a second chance to walk through the right one. People love comfort. Oh, they love it. They wrap themselves in it like a warm little blanket, thinking it's keeping them safe, thinking it's protecting them. But the truth is, it's trapping them. It's making them weak. It's turning them into prisoners of their own routine, their own habits, their own fear. See, people like things to be predictable. They like knowing what comes next. They like routines, patterns, the same people, the same places, the same conversations, because it makes them feel in control. But control, a breakup, a betrayal, a sudden change that throws everything into chaos. And suddenly, that little comfort zone, it starts to feel like a prison cell. Because here's the joke. Comfort isn't safety. Comfort is stagnation. And when you stay in a place too long, when you hold on to things that aren't meant for you, life has a way of removing them, not to punish you, not to hurt you, but to wake you up. Because if you had it your way, you'd stay right there, rotting away in your own little bubble, convincing yourself that everything is just fine. But life knows better. It knows you're meant for more. It knows you're meant to move, to grow, to evolve. And if you won't do it yourself, oh, don't worry. Life will force you. That's why things start falling apart when you least expect it. That's why the people you thought would always be there suddenly walk away. That's why the job you thought was secure suddenly slips through your fingers. It's not bad luck. It's not some cruel joke. It's the push, the little shove life gives you when you've been standing still for too long. Because deep down, you know you don't belong here anymore. You know you've outgrown this place, these people, this version of yourself. But instead of walking away, instead of choosing change, you cling to what's familiar. And that's when life has to step in. That's when it has to rip things away, break things apart, force you to move. And what do people do? Oh, they fight it, they resist, they cry, they beg, they hold on even tighter to what's already slipping away. They act like victims, like the world is against them, like they don't understand why everything is falling apart. But the truth is, they do understand, they just don't want to admit it. Because admitting it means they have to start over. It means they have to let go of their little security blanket. And nobody likes that. But here's the punchline. When something isn't meant for you, when a chapter of your life is done, you can fight all you want, you can scream, you can beg, you can try to put the pieces back together, but it won't work. It can't work, because life isn't taking something from you. It's trying to give you something better, but you'll never see it if you're too busy clinging to what's already dead. And it's funny, isn't it, the way people pray for change, the way they ask for better, and then the second life starts making room for it, they panic. They act like it's some kind of mistake. But there are no mistakes. That door closed for a reason. That relationship ended for a reason. That situation crumbled for a reason, and you can either sit there mourning it, trying to breathe life back into something that was never meant to last, or you can wake up. You can see it for what it really is, a chance, a new path, a fresh start. But most people are too scared. They'd rather stay in the ruins of what was than step into the unknown. They'd rather suffer in familiarity than risk the uncertainty of something new. And that's the real tragedy. Because life will move on, with or without you. The only question is, are you going with it? Or are you staying behind, clinging to a door that's already locked? Because once it's, let's just say, not everyone gets to open it again. People always talk about wanting peace. Oh, I just want peace. I just want things to be calm. But you know what's funny? The second life gives them peace. They don't know what to do with it. They start looking for problems, stirring up old wounds, bringing back people they know aren't good for them. Because deep down, they don't want peace. They want familiarity. Even if familiarity means chaos. See, life has a way of cleaning up for you. It removes the things you don't have the strength to walk away from. It cuts the strings you were too scared to cut yourself. But instead of taking the hint, instead of accepting that maybe, just maybe it's a blessing, what do people do? They go chasing after what was removed. They go knocking on doors that were shut for them. They pick up the phone and call the very people they once prayed to forget. And why? Because the silence scares them. The emptiness makes them itch. They get so used to dysfunction that when life finally gives them something better, they sabotage it. They don't know how to exist without the constant noise, the drama, the stress. They start thinking, maybe I overreacted, maybe it wasn't that bad, maybe I should give it one more try. But the joke, the real joke, they know exactly why that door was closed. They know exactly why they left in the first place. But the mind, the mind likes to play tricks. It likes to rewrite history to make the past seem softer, to blur out the pain and highlight only the good moments, because That's the easiest way to trap someone. Convince them that going backward is the right move. And people fall for it every time. They get the urge to reach out, to go back, to try again. And at first, it feels good. It feels like relief, like slipping back into an old worn-out sweater. But soon enough, they remember. They remember why they walked away. They remember the pain, the stress, the constant feeling of not being enough. And by then, it's too late. They're stuck in the cycle again, convincing themselves that this time, it'll be different. This time, it'll work. But it never does, because when something is meant to be gone, it will never sit right in your life again. It will always feel off. It will always drain you. It will always feel like you're forcing something that isn't supposed to be there. And the funny part? Life will keep showing you. It will keep reminding you. Little things will start going wrong. Conversations won't flow the way they used to. The same old problems will creep back in, and deep down you'll know this isn't where you're supposed to be. But people don't like admitting mistakes. They don't like saying, I should have never come back. They don't like facing the truth that they knew better, but ignored it anyway. So they stay. They stay out of pride. They stay out of guilt. They stay because they don't want to face the fact that they wasted time. But that's the biggest mistake of all, staying somewhere you know you don't belong, just because you don't want to admit you took a wrong turn. But life, life is patient. It will wait. It will let you run in circles, chase your tail, go back and forth as many times as you want. But the result, that never changes. What's wrong will always be wrong. What's broken will always be broken. What's done will always be done. You can try to paint over it. You can try to convince yourself that maybe this time will be different. But the truth is a funny thing. It doesn't care about your feelings. It doesn't bend just because you want it to. It just is. And eventually you'll see it. Really see it. That all the effort, all the fighting, all the time you spent trying to fix something that wasn't meant to be saved, it was all for nothing. That if you had just let go when life told you to, if you had just listened instead of forcing something dead to keep breathing, you'd be somewhere better by now. But instead, you wasted time. And time, that's the one thing you never get back. People like to think they're in control, that they're calling the shots, making the choices, deciding who stays and who goes. But the real joke, is that life is always one step ahead. You think you're holding on to people, but really, they're just waiting for the right moment to slip away. You think you're choosing your path, but really, you're just walking a road that's already been paved. And when life decides it's time to shake things up, you can scream, you can cry, you can beg, but the outcome, that's already written. See, people don't like losing things. They don't like losing people. They get attached. They start thinking that just because something's been around for a while, it's meant to stay. And that's where the comedy begins. Because nothing stays, nothing is meant to last forever. Everything has an expiration date. But people? They fight against time. They hold on to people who have already left in their minds. They try to breathe life back into relationships that have been dead for years. They hold on, thinking they're being strong, when really all they're doing is delaying the inevitable. And then when life finally takes something away, when it finally rips that last thread, what do people do? They fall apart. They act like they didn't see it coming. They act like they were blindsided, as if the warning signs weren't flashing bright as day, but deep down, they knew. They always knew. They just didn't want to accept it, because accepting it means change, and people, they're terrified of change. But life doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't care if you're ready. It doesn't care if you still have unfinished business, if you still have words left unsaid, if you still want them. When someone's time in your life is up, it's up. And you can fight it, you can hold on, you can chase after them, but all you're doing is embarrassing yourself. Because when life removes someone, when life makes someone walk away, there's a reason you might not see right now, a reason you might not understand, but a reason nonetheless. And people love to argue with fate. They sit there overanalyzing, replaying every moment, trying to figure out why. They say things like, "But they were so important to me," or "I gave them everything." As if that matters, as if just because you wanted them to stay, that means they shouldn't. But life doesn't work like that. It doesn't care about what you want. It cares about what you need. And sometimes what you need is for people to leave. Because let's be honest, if they were meant to stay, if they were really supposed to be part of your next chapter, nothing could have pulled them away. No argument, no distance, no misunderstanding. But the fact that they left, that tells you everything you need to know. That tells you they weren't built to last. They weren't meant to go where you're going next. And maybe that stings. Maybe it feels unfair. But life isn't about fairness. It's about movement. And when something no longer serves you, when something starts holding you back, life will cut it away. And here's the best part. People act like life is punishing them, like losing someone is some kind of cruel joke. But maybe, just maybe, it's the best thing that ever happened to you. Maybe life is saving you from years of wasted time. Maybe life is making space for something better, something greater. But you're too busy looking at the closed door to see the open one right in front of you. That's what makes it so funny. The way people cry over things they should be celebrating. The way they grieve the loss of what was never right for them in the first place. But don't worry, life has a way of proving its point. One day you'll look back and laugh. You'll wonder why you ever fought so hard to keep something that was only holding you back. You'll wonder why you ever begged for people who were already halfway out the door. You'll wonder why you spent so much energy resisting what was always meant to happen. But by then, it'll be too late to go back. And that's the punchline, isn't it? People love comfort. They love what's familiar, what's safe, even if that comfort is killing them. Even if that safety is just a well-decorated prison, they'll choose it every time, because stepping into the unknown, that's terrifying. Walking away from what you've always known, that's like cutting off your own shadow. But here's the joke. The longer you stay in places you don't belong, the more life will push you out. It starts small. Little signs, little nudges, a gut feeling that doesn't sit right, a sense of unease like you're trying to squeeze into a space that doesn't fit anymore. But people ignore it. They tell themselves they're just being paranoid, that they need to try harder. So they force it. They stay. And then the signs get louder. People start acting differently. Conversations don't flow the way they used to. The energy shifts. You catch yourself feeling drained, exhausted, but still, you don't leave. You make excuses. You tell yourself it's just a phase. So life turns up the volume. The tension grows. Arguments start. Problems pile up, and still you cling to it like a sinking ship that you swear can still be saved. That's when life stops asking. That's when it starts forcing. People betray you. Doors slam shut. Things you once depended on collapse before your very eyes. Not because life is cruel, not because you're being punished, but because you refused to let go when it was time. And people, oh, they love to play the victim. Why is this happening to me? Why do I keep losing everything? As if they weren't given every chance to walk away before it reached this point. But that's the thing about humans. They don't change until they're forced to. They don't let go until they have to. So life gives them no choice. It strips them down. It removes everything they were too afraid to release on their own. And then they call it unfair. They call it cruel. They act like they weren't warned. But the truth is they knew. They felt it long before it happened. They just didn't listen. Because people would rather suffer in familiar pain than risk stepping into the unknown. They'd rather be drained, miserable, unfulfilled, just as long as they don't have to face the fear of starting over. But life doesn't care about your fear. Life doesn't care about your comfort. When it's time to go, and the best part, the way people cling to what's hurting them, the way they beg for things that were never meant to be theirs, the way they chase after people who have already checked out. And for what? Just to delay the inevitable? Just to avoid admitting that they knew better? That's the punchline. The way people fight against their own freedom, the way they resist the very thing that's trying to save them. But life is patient. It'll let you struggle. It'll let you suffer. It'll let you stay until you can't anymore. And by then, it's already too late to go back.